Uranus is moving into Gemini, a 7-year transmission beginning on the 25th and 26th of April 2026, when Uranus stays in the sign for 7 years and something is shifting. Most of us haven't felt this before. Last time this happened, the atom had just been split. So there's big changes afoot, and they happen fast. So Uranus, the sky god, is going to be in Mercury's domicile or home, being hosted by Mercury, the trickster god, for 7 years. So let's just take a breath into that air element. Inspiration means to be inspirited, right? To have spirit move into you and out. I want to help you feel what this energy actually is. And we'll work with where it's happening in your own chart. There'll be a message from Uranus and Gemini for each of you for your rising sign. This is a transmission for a decade. Yeah? So Uranus in the oldest telling is the sky itself. The vast arching heavens. The first principle of space. The infinite expanse. What lies beyond any boundary, and our collective consciousness, our imagination, and how imagination is the vehicle for creation. Uranus is the father principle. He's consciousness and all possibility. And he's transpersonal, which means he's a generational energy. And he's the archetype of what can't be contained, what exceeds form, what both breaks out of form, but also the idea that becomes form. His son is Saturn, who is the god of time and space and form. And Prometheus is a Titan who's sometimes associated with Uranus. And Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. And he didn't ask for permission. He just saw what was needed and saw what was being withheld, and he acted and was punished for it. But he brought the light down, he brought fire. So Uranus can be these downloads that we get from the sky. It's electricity, think lightning. Uranus brings what maybe sometimes isn't supposed to be available yet because we're not able to contain it. We're not yet able to embody it and bring it down into earth and let it really land. Uranian energy can be disruptive. It can, disrupt the established order. Uranian energy has this absolute uncompromising orientation toward truth and liberation. Ready or not, Uranus energy does what it does, right? And we know that when we have a Uranus transit to our own personal chart, we can really feel that happening, where things accelerate quicker than we can keep up with it sometimes. And if you're curious about where Uranus is transiting in your own chart, or where your natal Uranus is, where your genius is, Uranus is genius energy, genesis, your original medicine that only you can bring. If you're curious about that in your own chart, you can get a reading with me. So let's talk about Mercury, because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and he's the only Olympian that moves freely between all three worlds, the heavens, the earth, and the underworld. And he's the messenger. He's the translator. He's the one who carries information across thresholds. And he can move between worlds with ease. He's the god of language and commerce and travel and trickery and also connection. So he's Quicksilver. And in alchemy, he's the substance that can't be held still. Think hermetic. That word comes from Hermes. So Quicksilver takes the shape of whatever contains it, but it belongs to no container. Mercury's as Hermes is the psychopomp. He's the guide of souls. So he's the one who knows the way through, who holds the lamp in the dark passage. So he's a complex god. He's multifaceted, multi-faced, that trickster energy. So he's communication, but he's also the entire sort of infrastructure of how meaning moves between minds and also between worlds. So when Uranus, who in modern astrology is considered to be a higher octave of that mercurial energy, of the energy of Mercury, again, the collective consciousness and how we communicate as a collective. Uranus rules the internet, also rules astrology. When Uranus is in Mercury's sign, the sky god enters the domain of the trickster, the awakener, the culture bringer, the messenger. And they're not opposing forces. They're the same impulse to move and transgress boundaries, to carry something across, again, ready or not, and they make a revolution of the mind. We can get a sense of this shift by thinking about or feeling into how it felt to have Uranus be in Taurus, where Uranus was from 2018. And this had this feeling of like the earth moving, the tectonic plates shifting, like the ground beneath our values, your resources, your sense of material stability shifted, right? And a lot of what we thought was solid wasn't. Think about the difference between, 2018, 2019, and then what happened 2020, right? Quite different. There's a very different feeling tone. So some of us built things during this time, and a lot of us had to sort of rebuild what security means to us. And that may not, feel like an entirely complete process. Still, Uranus and Gemini is going to have, again, a different feeling. It's a faster feeling, electric in the nervous system. As I say, we can have these kinds of, downloads, and like ideas moving through you at a speed that may not be comfortable. The sense that you've been thinking about, the way you've been thinking about something is suddenly, insufficient or is not relevant anymore. But it can also feel like revelation. Like there's, it can feel like disruption. It can feel like both in the same moment. And what this is definitely not is a boring transit. So the question that Uranus asks for 7 years, we'll be asking this question: what do you think you know? And what would happen if that changed? What narratives, what frameworks, what ways of making meaning might have been calcifying, getting fixed, getting polarized, and what could be possible when they crack open and something new gets in. So before Uranus leaves Taurus, Venus, who is in her own sign, she's in her domicile in Taurus, she meets Uranus at that anaretic degree, 29 degrees at the end of the sign, which is a significant degree of completion. And Uranus is completing this long journey through Taurus, through the earth element. This is the last breath of the sign, and less than 10 minutes from that doorway, that portalway into Gemini. And so this has a quality of now or never, right? Of something reaching its absolute limit, its final expression before that door closes. And Venus is, again, in Taurus. This is her home, the earth, the body, the senses, the slow accumulation of what is genuinely valuable. And she's been rooting here, right? And living in her body, in her pleasure, in presence, where she's well-resourced. And now at the very last degree, she meets the sky god. And this is her father. This is, Uranus is her creator. She's older than the Olympians. They both are. And Uranus, through his conflict with Saturn, who is the one who grounds all possibility and these downloads into reality, into concrete reality. Through that conflict, Aphrodite was born from the sea. So she meets the sky god, the awakener, and the one who's, Uranus is always moving toward that next horizon. So what does she say to him there at the threshold? And maybe something like, remember the body. Remember the mind needs ground. Remember that what you're about to awaken in people, make sure it has somewhere to land. And then she steps across into Gemini. And then a day later, he follows. So Venus enters Gemini on the 24th of April. And she prepares the ground. Again, she's an ancient goddess. She prepares the air. She brings her gifts of beauty and connection and desire into the realm of thought, of language, and of the space between minds. And then when Uranus arrives, the revolution also arrives. So let's speak just a little bit about how this energy is integrated with some of the other movers and shakers in the sky, right? So Neptune and Saturn have just moved into Aries, and Pluto is in Aquarius. When I say they've just moved in, they've been for a while, but these planets move so slowly that it's considered to be recent because they spend so much time in these signs. So, all three outer planets, the transpersonal planets, remember those are the planets that are bigger than us personally. They're generational. They've all changed signs within the last 2 years. So there's a reconfiguration of the collective sky and stars. And it's genuinely unprecedented in our memory. So the world's not going to go back to what it was. And the question Uranus and Gemini asks is whose voices get to shape the story now? Whose way of making meaning? Whose language? So we're in a huge moment collectively, and what you think, how you speak, what stories you tell, and what you refuse to tell, these are not small things in a Uranus and Gemini world. These are the things. This Saturday, the 25th of April, along with this ingress into Gemini, I begin Inhabit, which is a 6-week immersion working with Persephone and Aphrodite and Circe, who demanded to be part of this immersion. And I called it Inhabit from the etymology to dwell, to live in, to come home, to be at home, right? So this is to assist us in continuing to be creators rather than just consumers and scrollers, to work with the divine feminine, to, respond to Venus and Taurus's advice, to remain grounded, to be present, to be connected to our pleasure, but also our physicality and that yin energy as a sort of antidote and an answer to the astrology that's happening right now. And it's for spring, it's for reblooming, it is for working with the energies of Taurus season and to harness that energy to move into the spring and summer with our power and to really be inhabiting and integrating and in a way of, coherence. So we'll be doing a lot of creative work together, connecting, oracle writing, meditation, divination, some movement, some poetry, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope that you will enroll, and I will leave the link in the description. If you have Aries rising, Uranus will be going through your third house for this transit. And you as Aries, you move through the world with instinct and directness. You're someone who acts before things are laid out. You trust the impulse and you follow it. And that's one of your strengths. Uranus in your third house is going to electrify the way that knowing moves into speaking, into language, into your voice. So it's going to revolutionize your voice. So for the next 7 years, the way you think and communicate and the way that you relate to your local environment as well, this is in a state of, active, alive revolution. And your ideas are going to start to really come in really fast. And some of what you've taken for granted, stories you've told yourself, the ways you've understood your immediate world, that may crack open and new light is going to come in. So Uranus would say to you, Aries, you have always known how to move. Now I'm going to show you how to speak in a way that moves the world with you. If you have Taurus rising, Uranus will be in your second house. So you have an extraordinary relationship with the material world, with the five senses, what can be touched, what sustains in what we call the real world, right? You know in your body what has value, and you have an attunement to genuine worth in yourself, in what you create, in what you choose to tend. And this is your gift, one of your gifts. Uranus in your second house is going to shake and remake your relationship to resource and to money and to your self-worth. Not to destabilize, but there's some way in which you need to move. It's to liberate, to give you more freedom, and to reveal where your relationship to security has been built on maybe a value that isn't current anymore. And you'll discover more about about your worth, and there may be some surprises in this way. And again, more freedom in how you're interpreting worth and value. So Uranus would say to you, Taurus, you know the value of things. Now I'm going to show you which of those valuations are truly yours. If you have Gemini rising, there is a lot of change coming for you. This is one of the most mentally alive signs in the zodiac, that you're a native of this sign. You move fast, you connect the dots that others miss, you hold multiple truths simultaneously without needing to, commit or collapse into one of them. And that is that quality of intellectual, agility and Mercury is your ruler. That's the gift that you give to the world. So Uranus moving through your first house, this is your body and your identity, your presence. And this is a very personal transit, yet it's bringing in this transpersonal energy. So it's going to be a lot for you to hold. You are the site of revolution. So I don't mean to say that in a way that's grandiose, but it's bringing this clarification to you, who you are, how you present, how you understand yourself to be. This is in a state of this alive, electric becoming. So you're going to be surprising a lot of people this year, and you're not going to be the same person at the end of this transit. So there's this invitation to change really kind of radically this year. So what Uranus would say to you is that, Gemini, you have always been multiple. I am here to make sure that you truly own that. If you have Cancer rising, Uranus will be in your 12th house until 2023. So you have this profound capacity for emotional intelligence, for sensing into what is beneath the surface, and for holding others in a way that makes them feel genuinely known and at home in their own hearts. So the care that you bring to your relationship and the spaces that you inhabit, this is one of your gifts, right? To create this kind of container of safety. So Uranus in your 12th house operates backstage and in territory you don't always have direct access to. It's the house of the collective unconscious, and it's interior. It's the part of the psyche that is archetypal and mythical, but also works beneath awareness. So something in that deep room is being awakened. Revelations may come in dreams. You know, dreams are these art films that our psyche makes every night to tell us what's going on archetypally and what's going on in our unconscious, right? So when you're in solitude, this is when revelations may come to you in these liminal spaces between one thing and the next. And what you discover about yourself during this 7-year transit, it's about what's been running quietly behind the surface, in finding that in these states of silence and repose and withdrawal, which you need. You're the crab, right? You need to withdraw into your shell sometimes and, be the hermit. But that doesn't mean you're alone for the whole, I know Cancer, you're like, but my family, you don't have to be alone. It's just that you're going to be swimming in these waters, right? These oceanic waters. So Uranus says, Cancer, the room you haven't fully entered yet, I will be in it for years. Let me show you what's there. If you have Leo rising, Uranus will be in your 11th house until 2023. And you, of course, are radiant. Your ruling planet is the sun. You have this capacity to hold space, to bring light where you go, to be genuinely seen, and also to see other people, to be inspirational. And you bring warmth and life to the world. And this is who you are. And Uranus in your 11th house is going to revolutionize your relationship to community and to vision. And this is a period of time where your visionary self is going to be sparking, and there's going to be a lot of electricity in that zone of your life. And it could be overwhelming at times, like what kind of comes through you. So the ecosystem of belonging around you is going to shift, and some connections are going to surprise you with, how they get clear very fast, and some may complete. They might, if they're not updating with where your vision is going, they might end. So what might emerge for you is a community that's genuinely aligned with who you're becoming and where you're innovating. So Leo, Uranus would say to you, you have always known how to shine. Now I'm going to introduce you to the people that can hold that light without needing to dim it. If you have Virgo rising, Uranus is in your 10th house right at the top of your chart and is going to stay there until 2023. We're using whole signs for this reading. So you carry a remarkable capacity for discernment, for seeing what's actually there, and for making things work with precision and with care, and for bringing genuine intelligence to everything you touch. You're also ruled by Mercury. Mercury is your ruling planet, the lord of your chart. That sounds really big, doesn't it? Well, Uranus is in your ruler's domicile now, so this will affect you very strongly. It's also in an angular house in your chart, and the angular houses have a lot of power. So Uranus is bringing the revolution to the very top of your chart, to your public life, your vocation, which is calling, think vocal, your sense of purpose. And for these next years, the shape of your life takes, the shape that your life takes in the world, how you're seen. This is in a state of active, alive change. It's very charged right now. Something about how you're seen and what you're building, that's being upgraded and revolutionized. This may look different than what you plan. And I know for Virgo, you're like, but I have a plan. Well, Uranus tends to disrupt plans, right? So in this area of your life, there is going to be a lot of new, again, downloads. Think of like a lightning rod, right? You're going to be bringing this in. So your job as an earth element being is to let that move through you and ground it. So what Uranus would say to you is, Virgo, you have been building something with extraordinary care. I am here to show you how much larger it can become. If you have Libra rising, Uranus is in your 9th house until 2023, and you are someone who has a profound sensitivity to what's true from more than one angle. So you see all the different viewpoints. You can hold complexity. You can perceive the ethical and also the aesthetic weight of a situation simultaneously. And that gift of genuine embodied perception, feeling. Aesthetic means to perceive. So that perception and your ability to sense into the delicacies around that, that's very rare. And your ability to hold other people's perspectives. This is one of your greatest gifts. Uranus in your 9th house is going to revolutionize the framework through which you make meaning. So your beliefs, the philosophies that matter to you, right? Getting aware of what your philosophies are. The worldview that organizes how you understand your life. And so for the next 7 years, what you think you know about the nature of things, what is true about the story you're inhabiting, this is being actively expanded and sometimes blown right out of the water, and some things sometimes overturned, right? Sometimes ejected from things that you really were sure were true. And so what's replacing the old frameworks will be more honest, right? And more genuinely coming from you. So Libra, one of the things that you often have to do is sort of locate yourself. So while you're holding all these perspectives, your medicinal sign is Aries. Aries can show you how to find yourself and your own will. So Uranus says, Libra, you have always known how to weigh things. Now, I am going to give you a completely different set of scales. If you have Scorpio rising, Uranus is in your 8th house, which is your kind of native land. The 8th house is the house of associated in modern astrology with Pluto. It's the house of transformation. So you carry this capacity for depth, for seeing beneath the surface, for holding what is complex and dark and transformative, and holding it without flinching, where other people might more. So the territory of the 8th house is, intimacy, shared resource, what is released and what is created in genuine, intimate connection, right? And being seen and truly experienced. So Uranus in your 8th house is going to electrify that territory and the dynamics of your deepest connections, your deepest bonds, what you share, what you exchange, what transforms when you truly meet another. This area of your life is in a state of revolution. So old patterns of merging of giving and receiving, of how you navigate power in an intimate situation, emotional intimacy, any kind of energy exchange. They're being disrupted and rebuilt. And what emerges is a more honest, more liberated way of going deep. So Uranus would say to you, Scorpio, you have never been afraid of the depths. That's good. I am about to change what you find there. If you have Sagittarius rising, you have a natural gift for vision, for orienting toward what is possible, for holding the horizon in view when others are focused just on the immediate. So you see the big picture, you are far seeing, and that capacity to see the bigger picture of things is a gift. So Uranus will be in your 7th house, and this is going to revolutionize your relational field. So significant partnerships, collaborations, and mirror relationships in your life. So the 7th house is kind of like your looking glass, your how others mirror you, and also how you approach partnership. So for the next 7 years, who stands across from you, the people who, so across the table, across from you in the 7th house, this is changing. Some relationships will transform in ways that you might not predict. Some relationships may arrive very suddenly, very electrically, and seemingly out of nowhere. And what is being built is a relational life that is genuinely, that matches who you're becoming and not who you've been so much. So Sagittarius, Uranus says to you, you have always known where you're going. Now I am going to show you who is actually meant to travel with you. If you have Capricorn rising, Uranus is in your 6th house until 2023. And you carry an extraordinary capacity for the long view, for understanding what is worth building and the time that it takes. You understand that discipline and patience are not limitations, but forms of respect. That orientation toward what is lasting. And when it's the correct season for something, this is your gift. This is your strength. So Uranus in your 6th house is going to revolutionize the texture of your daily life. The body, the routines, the daily practices, what your diet is like, what you do every day. So the way that you live your life minute to minute, that's how you live your life. So the ordinary structure of your days is in a state of active reinvention. And what you discover during this time about how your body actually wants to live, what your daily work actually wants to become. This may look different from what you expected, so let it surprise you. Uranus says to you, Capricorn, you know how to build for the long term. Now I am going to show you what is actually worth building. Aquarius rising, Uranus is in your 5th house until 2023. So you naturally have a capacity for thinking beyond convention. And Uranus is your ruling planet in modern astrology. So this is native territory for you. You have a capacity for seeing what is possible beyond the boundaries of what currently exists. So for possibility, for holding a vision of something different and being willing to live by it. That's your gift, is your vision and your willingness to progress into the future and into the unknown. Uranus is going to be traveling through your 5th house. So it's going to electrify the realm of creativity and desire and the compassion, the expression, and your personal expression and your need to self-disclose, to share something of yourself from your creativity. So the 5th house is where you make things that are really yours and an expression of yourself, where you play, you create, you take risks, where desire operates as a generative force. It's also your inner child. So what wants to be made through you during this transit may be unlike anything you've ever made before. It might be strange. It might be surprising. Let it be genuinely yours. Get weird. That's like your, that's one of your strengths, is your ability to really own your weirdness. You're really going to want to express that, right, in these next few years. So Uranus says to you, you're a child of Uranus, Aquarius. You have always known how to think differently. Now I want to see what you make from that. If you have Pisces rising, Uranus is in your 4th house until 2023, and you carry a profound attunement to what lives beneath the surface of the ocean, in those deep emotional waters of the collective unconscious. You have an attunement to the emotional and energetic undercurrents that others might miss, not be as sensitive to. You have a sensitivity to the invisible threads that connect things, and that permeability, that capacity to feel what is not being said. That's one of your most extraordinary qualities. Your sensitivity is your superpower. Uranus is going to be going through your 4th house, and this is going to revolutionize your foundation, your home, your roots, the private interior of your life, your ancestry. There may be some surprising revelations and revolutions that come from your ancestral roots. And so what you understand as home, where it is, what it means, who it includes, where it is, where its foundation is, where it's built from, this is in a state of alive transformation. So what is being dismantled is not what's most real, what's most substantial. What's being revealed now, that's what is most real. So Uranus says to you, Pisces, you have always felt the ground moving beneath things. At the bottom of the sea. Now I am going to show you what was actually underneath all along.